thankful for waiting stories. Hold on to the lifetime we won't get back. I know these rivers carry on. People tend to stick to you after time. Places tend to do the same as we do. This river carries on and on.
Hello and welcome to Kankakee Podcast, where we talk about the people and places of Kankakee County. I'm Jake LaMore, and today we are joined by Jordan Chapman, who is the executive director.
Yeah,
right?
That's a fancy way of saying director. Yeah.
Just director.
Yep.
I'm so used to almost every other organization I've had on the podcast. They're usually executive directors. So I guess I'm just used to that title. But either way,
I'll take it.
whether you're executive director or director from the Kankakee County Humane Foundation, before, like when you first messaged me on the Kankakee Podcast Facebook page, I think it was, I've obviously seen your name around, and then I realized I was like, wait a minute, Jordan and I have met.
Yeah.
And so you used to come to the radio station to record it was like a monthly
Pet of the month. Yep.
Pet of the month.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was like, oh gosh, I feel stupid now. I was like, because I don't know. Like, I was like, I don't think I've met her before, but we have
My
met,
Facebook name throws people off too. So
yeah.
that doesn't help.
Yeah. But that's okay. I mean, the people that need to know who you are know who you are. And it's good to keep people on, like you kept me on my toes. So that,
Good.
that's good to do as well. But it's so great to have you here. Thanks for reaching out. I think, the Kankakee County Humane Foundation, how long has the foundation been around in Kankakee? It's been
1963 we were established.
Yeah,
so.
long time.
There was a couple different names and then two organizations had merged at one point several years ago. And then now we are KCHF.
Okay.
Still, I guess.
Awesome. So what are you born and raised in Kankakee County? Where does your story begin?
Yeah, I was born in Joliet.
Okay.
I grew up in Wilmington and then and then we moved to St. Anne, my mother and I did, when I was starting second grade. So St. Anne from second grade up through high school. And then I left and lived in the St. Louis area for college and then moved back. My sisters are significantly younger than me. They're 11 and 16 years younger than me.
Oh, wow.
So as soon as I got the chance to move back, I was, I missed 4 years of stuff. So I wanted to come back and I've been back since. So.
And you're what, in your 20s or 30s?
30 now. Yep.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was like, that is wow, that is a big gap.
Yeah.
Man.
So they're a lot younger than me. So I wanted to be back and, they're in sports and doing all the stuff. And like Grace is in college playing softball now. And Ella just started at Mac and she's playing soccer. And so I just missed a lot of things. So when I moved back, I think it's been 5 or 6 years now that I've been back.
Okay.
Maybe even more than that. Gosh, I don't know.
And you've been at the Humane Foundation since about the time you moved back, right?
Yeah.
Because when you used to come to the station, that's been, 3 years ago?
Yeah, I started
4 years ago?
The director in 2016 or 17. I should know that, but
so that's about
it's been a bit. I started as a kennel assistant, and then I was out. I coached softball at St. Anne for a little bit, and so we did volunteer hours as a team there. And then I was like, kind of made a joke, like, "Hey, if you ever need help, And they were like, "Oh, sure." And so I started working as a part-time kennel assistant, just as something extra to do. And then I had left for a little bit, started working at Camelot. I was a teacher's aide in one of the classrooms there. And then I noticed that the foundation was hiring. And so I'd reached out to Kathy Fegan, which is one of our board members. And I said, hey, let's, I'd like to chat about some things about when I'd left. And so I'd come back, worked part-time again, just kind of was helping through some stuff. There was no director at the time outside of, Kathy and a couple other people doing all of the things. And so then I applied formally and was interviewed, and then here I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what did you go to school for in where did you go to school? In St.
Blackburn
Louis?
College in Carlinville. So still in Illinois. But then I had moved closer to the St. Louis side. I did an internship with the St. Louis Cardinals. I was studying physical education and then switched to sports management. So I worked for the Cardinals for a semester, and then
That's so cool. What did you do for the Cardinals?
I worked for their Hall of Fame museum.
Okay.
So it was super nerdy, and I was into it.
Hey, but that's cool.
I kind of just threw the application and it was like, you know what, whatever. And then they actually called me, and it was like bare minimum, like just scrolling randomly. And so I had an interview, and I wore, I was dressed up, wore, whatever, a button up and khakis, and went in, and they're like, you're really just kind of calm, and everybody's always like super like, oh my gosh, here I am. And I kind of unbuttoned the top 3 of my shirt, and I had my Cubs blue t-shirt on underneath it. They said, you did not. And I said, I am a diehard Cubs fan. And so then 2 weeks later on my birthday, they called and offered it to me. And so they thought it was the funniest thing. But yeah, I couldn't do it. Like I had to wear a red polo one time for opening day because we didn't have to. It was actually the coolest thing ever. I shouldn't say it that way. We carried the World Series trophies out during the opening ceremony, and I had to wear a red polo like I was a Cardinals fan, and I wore the same blue t-shirt under.
Just to,
Yeah, I can't.
It's good to know that, you're a Cubs fan, and for the people that may have seen you wear red, it's like, don't worry. Blue was touching my skin.
Yeah, I remember texting my mom at my lunch break before we started the opening ceremony stuff, and I'd walked to a Panera Bread like a block away from the stadium, and there was so many people. And I texted my mom as I was walking. I said, Mom, I am drowning because there's so many people in red. And her brother, my uncle, is a diehard Cardinals fan, like has been his entire life. And he thought it was the funniest thing in the entire world. And I'm just like, oh, I'm not even telling him.
It is funny though when you but they still like gave you the job and everything. That's also what's hilarious. Because you would imagine like, showing off your blue at a job interview, your Cubs blue. They're like, what the hell is up with this?
I wasn't lying.
Like
they had to know what they were getting into. So, and I had no idea about anything that was like that I would be doing. I had no background in museum or preservation or artifact catalog, like in anything. And I learned a lot. It was really, really cool. So now Ballpark Village that has since been put up, it was the groundbreaking is when I was there. So I got to go to that. And now the Hall of Fame Museum that exists, I was a big part in helping kind of catalog. Like there's baseball cards that you can flip through like on an iPad. I cataloged every single one of those baseball cards. That's some hard work. Yeah, it was neat.
It's harder than people realize. I know my oldest brother Josh has done a lot of cataloging for different libraries and such, and there's a lot of work.
Learning the numbers and all that. Like thankfully they had a system for it, so I could just plug in whatever it was and it would create a number. But before they had that, my advisor, I guess is who she was, her name is Paula, and then I had another one, Amy, and they were super big museum nerds, and I say that very lovingly. But they were, it was incredible, the stuff they could just rattle off. Also diehard Cardinal fans, so going to games with them was like interesting.
Everyone else should have been there instead of you.
Yeah, but it was I like the respect for the museum side of things is so different because it's not like, even when I go to a museum now, like you can look and you'll see the numbers written in, like, and they're handwritten on everything. And I'm like, I know why they do that, which is nerdy, but I like it. So it's cool.
What I'm trying to remember, was it when we were kids, was it McGuire that was on the Cardinals?
Yes.
He was a big hitter, right? Yep. Yeah. What was his first name? Mark McGuire. That's what it was. Yeah. Okay.
Mark McGuire favorite. And Sammy Sosa.
Yes. Those were the ones I remember as a kid arguing with people like who was the better hitter.
Yeah. And they were back and forth for a couple seasons, I think, on who was taking the lead in home runs.
Yeah. I think that's why I remember it so well, because that was something the public like really, or at least in the Midwest, obviously, like they fixated on.
Oh, I'm sure everybody did. Yeah.
Who had more home runs at that time. And I remember the Cubs were doing pretty well around that time, weren't they? Or they didn't they get close
for the Cubs?
But there was a couple times they got close to the World Series with when Sammy Sosa was on the team, right?
Oh, that I don't know.
Okay, I could be making that up. I don't know my baseball. Like I like sure, like I'll watch a baseball game if I'm there, but like I'm not like a diehard.
Yeah, I don't follow it. Like when I was younger, I didn't follow that closely. Like now, I'm like, I know we're not going to win this year. So.
Yeah, it's like it might be another 100 years.
I live to see it, so yeah, I mean, I'll call it a win.
I wasn't, like I just said, I'm not a big baseball fan. I don't have a team, but I even watched that last World Series game in 2016.
I think everybody did.
Everyone like my girlfriend and I at the time, she was the same way. Not a big baseball person, but we're both like, hey, let's watch the game. And we're both looking at each other like, did we just say that?
Yeah.
What's wrong with
the history of it? I guess you just can't miss, because when we're 80 people, when we still haven't won again, we'll get to say, well, we lived to see it. So.
Yeah. So let's get to, the Kankakee County Humane Foundation. What's the history of it? I mean, I know it started, like you said, in 1963 is what you said. And what was the overall goal and purpose at that time? I'm sure it's changed drastically since then.
Yeah. I'm sure we're bigger now. The mission statement has changed a little bit. Now, we've simplified, so to speak. So now, we're a community-focused organization helping animals in need since 1963. So, it kind of, there it is. It says exactly what we do. We try to do community outreach, help with whatever possible. Of course, adoption, cats, dogs, and a few animals in between. We've had some birds, ferrets, guinea pigs.
So you do take other
on
animals.
Occasion. Yeah, we have 2 bunnies right now. We've taken 2 birds, which I'm deathly afraid of birds. So they have to.
Why afraid?
I just don't trust a bird. I don't know.
Because they're like gonna peck you, or
they fly. I don't know. Yeah, But you can't put a bird on a leash and tell them what to do.
Even then, it doesn't work.
Yeah, so I'm a little hesitant on the birds.
Don't they clip certain birds' wings so they can't fly, or all a them?
I think domestic birds, I don't know a ton about birds.
Right, because it's mainly dogs and cats.
Yeah, we found a bird lady that is one of our staff members, Kara. It's one of her family friends, and she's adopted 2 birds from us. And I think we've had 2, so she has both of them. But she knows a ton about them. She said they like sit on her head and they'll take popcorn from her. And I mean, she just hangs out with her birds. So, I mean, yeah.
I mean, everyone has their own favorite animal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if it was legal, I would have a penguin.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I draw the line at birds and snakes. Those are the 2 that.
I mean, a penguin is a bird, but it's not like a bird that can fly.
Yeah, I could do a penguin or a flamingo, but I don't know.
I often think of Mr. Popper's Penguins, how he like turned his house into like a freezer or whatever. Like I would love to do that with my basement and just have penguins just hanging out, watching TV down here.
Yeah.
But with birds, what kind of birds were they?
Oh, I have not a clue.
Don't remember.
I just knew one of them. The family dynamic they were vacationing a lot or traveling, and the bird started pulling all of its feathers out. And so just because of the change, and it was stressed. So it has since all grown back. And then the other bird was actually my aunt's, and she had unexpectedly passed away last year. And so it was technically her son's bird, and he was like, hey, I can't have the bird. He lives in Texas currently. And my family had said, what can we do? And I said, I have a bird lady. And so I had Kara text her friend. Her name's Corinne. And so she took in our bird.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Sorry for your loss.
26 years old. Like they live forever.
That's old.
Yeah. I mean, they live for like ever. So you're locked in.
I never would have thought that. I never would have thought a bird lived to be in their 20s.
I think they live till like they're 30.
Okay.
It's some kind of, it was like a green bird with yellow cheeks. I don't know anything about birds.
Okay.
I should have researched, but I just, I was given all the things to feed it and take care of him. So,
right. I mean, it makes sense because once again, like it's dogs and cats, and probably more cats than anything, right? Is that still the case?
A lot of cats and a lot of dogs all the time. We get calls for cats more often than dogs because there's so many, and there's so many stray cats that people are like, oh, this cat wandered up. Like Kankakee has a ton of stray cats, so we get a lot of them. But.
So how does the process work for you get a phone call and someone says, hey, I found a dog, or I have a dog that I can't take care of anymore, or their owner passed away.
Yeah.
How does that?
So, depending on space, of course, like, we don't put like 10 dogs in one kennel, obviously, like we have a bonded pair right now, so they're together, but otherwise everybody gets their own space. So if and when we have space, which we usually end up making space, we'll take the dog in. We ask kind of the basic questions like, is it up to date on vaccines? Is it spay or neutered? Which that stuff isn't a huge issue, but we just want to know ahead of time what kind of dog it is, if it's friendly with cats, kids, people in general. And then as long as we feel that, we can appropriately care for the dog and meet that dog's or cat's needs, we'll take it in. They'll sign a relinquishment form, which transfers ownership of the previous owner to us. That way we can do any medical care, that it becomes legally our pet to then adopt out, provide medical care for, place in a home, that kind of thing. So, and then the big question is always, how do you pay for all of this? Where does the money, because because if I'm giving you an animal, I'm not paying you. Nope. No, we don't have a relinquishment fee. We've talked about it before, but overall we feel that it would kind of deter people from bringing their pets in, which we don't want to do because, we see a ton that are on Facebook, and I'll message people like, hey, I'm the director of the Humane Foundation. This is not the greatest place. We'd be happy to help you, that kind of thing. I do that quite often just because Facebook is great for marketing on my end, but not when you don't really know people, like you don't have the way to vet them and check into them and stuff like that. And people don't always think that, like they think everybody has a good intention, which isn't always the case, unfortunately. So donations are how we pay for everything, quite literally everything. So you are a nonprofit organization. Start to finish. Oh, yeah. So then fundraisers come into play, or just donations in general. Yep. All around the year. And what are some of those events? Our biggest fundraiser is Paws and Purrs, which is a live and silent auction. So you would buy your ticket. That would give you dinner that's catered at our event. And then the silent auction is basically set up with all kinds of stuff. And then it kind of closes in chunks. And then the live auction, we have kind of the bigger and better, good stuff, so to speak. And that gets done by somebody who will go in just auction style and people bid. And then the highest bidder wins that. I mean, it goes from, I think the last one we did, because of COVID, we've not been able to do it the past 2 years, which has hurt because the last one we did, we raised $80,000 roughly. I think a little bit over that. So that hurt because we've not been able to do it for 2 years in a row now. And our operating budget is not small. It's a little over $300,000 a year to keep everything going, appropriate vet care, supplies, that staffing, all of that. So we've had to get a little creative. We've done some online fundraisers. I'll post like Facebook fundraisers for like medical cases and stuff, which has been helpful because the more people, like the more I put out there of what we're doing and kind of the graphic images that people, need to see what we're doing and kind of what we're handling. It helps people get engaged, I think, and see where their money's going. Like if we had a kitten a couple weeks ago that had an eye that was like completely almost out of her eye socket, and we had to have it removed the day we got her because of how big it was. And I posted all the pictures because, people should see kind of where their money goes. And it was it was gross looking. Did it get in a fight, or was it just not taken care of? It was an outside cat. Somebody had been feeding some feral cats, and the mom and dad had their 3 kittens, and they were coming up. And so the woman had got the 3 kittens. We've since taken all of the family in. We spay and neutered the mom and dad, and they recovered for a couple days at the shelter and just went back yesterday to the woman that was taking care of them. And so they're going to, release them back outside, but they have a big house and it's heated and stuff that they can go into. And then the kittens we have in a foster home right now, trying to get them a little bit more social. So, but we think that something either scratched her eye or got in there, and it wasn't able to get it out, or it got infected. And it was just big. It was gross. Yeah. There's a good chance it got in a fight with another cat. Yeah. It could have got scratched. There's a million different things, but even a little tiny, piece of dirt could get in there and get, inflamed and irritated. And then there it is. So yeah, my parents' cat, or our family cat, he is an indoor-outdoor cat. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many times he's been taken to the vet for some wound from another animal, probably a cat, other cats in the neighborhood. And even just a simple
scratch.
Yeah.
It gets infected, and then he starts, losing hair there or whatever.
Yeah.
So you got to take him in. Now, do you have is there a vet on staff, or do you partner with some of the area veterinarian hospitals to get care? How does that work?
So we don't have a vet on staff. We do some things in the shelter, and by we, me and my staff, like we can do basic like wound care. We can give vaccines, dewormer, basic antibiotics, stuff like that. That's kind of under the direction of a vet. Like if I say, hey, like if a kitten comes in with an upper respiratory infection, I can start them on an antibiotic. Like that's not, unheard of or anything. But like rabies vaccines have to be given by a doctor, and any other like real care is always done by a real licensed vet. And we're partnered with several. So we use South Creek Animal Hospital in Manteno, Kankakee Animal Hospital, VCA, Four Paws Pet Clinic just opened up like a month ago now over kind of by Brickstone on Elmar Parkway.
Oh, I didn't know that was over there.
Yeah, they just opened up. Dr. Fedro opened up, I think about a month ago.
Okay.
Lowell Animal Hospital in Indiana, we use them quite a bit. Kind of anywhere that can get us in, because usually when we need to get in, it's scheduled for spay and neuter, but sometimes the emergencies were like,
well, like the cat with the eye. I mean, that was an emergency.
Yeah, I ended up having an appointment at Four Paws already, so I just showed up with another cat.
Say, hey, I got something for you.
Yeah, I just come in with a big grin, and I'm like, ooh. And they were really great about it. Dr. Fedro did surgery that day, took it out, and then she went to Blue is the kitten's name. She went to a foster home the next morning, or next afternoon. But we use a lot of vets, and then we have an emergency vet that we use. We have a couple that we've used. Crossroads Animal Hospital over in Crown Point, Indiana. They're a 24-hour facility, so anything like overnight or hospitalization, they're one of the ones that we use as well for anything like that.
I always wondered where some of those 24-hour places were.
Yeah, there's one in Orland. It's Premier. It's just they're very expensive, which rightfully so. But Crossroads was kind of a hidden gem that we found, and so we like going to them. So.
What's the average cost on someone that just donates a dog to you? What are the costs involved to getting
if they've had nothing done around? If it's like a 1-year-old dog that has never been to the vet and done nothing, we need to do a Distemper vaccine, which is about $15, and they get 2 of those if they're an adult dog. If it's a puppy, they get 4. So $15 for that. A Bordetella, which is for kennel cough, is $15. Rabies is $15. Heartworm test is $15. If they're heartworm positive, that's like $400 to $500 to treat, which we do. Heartworm prevention, flea and tick, deworming, that's another probably $30 to $40. Spay and neuter, depending how big the dog is, from 70-ish to 100-ish. Microchip is another $10. I'm trying to think what else I'm forgetting. If they have an infection of some sort, if they need a skin scrape, if they need extra antibiotics, it all kind of depends what they need. So the ballpark is we usually don't make money on adoptions. We'd be lucky to break even after we've provided all that vet care. So if we're lucky, if we get it, like I always say, it's like a good day. Or we call them a little golden egg if we get like a dog that's fully vetted because we don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Which is very rarely the case.
Really?
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah. We do get some pets. Like we had an Australian Shepherd a couple months ago that had just recently got adopted. And he had everything that he needed. And the owners just had some unfortunate circumstances, which was actually genuinely really sad. And a lot of relinquishments it is really, really sad when like somebody passes away or has health issues or like genuine circumstances out of their control. It sucks to see because people are really upset and they're trusting us with, like if it was me, it's like my kid. Like if I was bringing a dog in, that's like my child. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's hard to see like there's been a couple that like I've got a little teary eyed and I'm pretty hard to get there now with people just because I see so much. And there's been some that are just like, ugh, to see. But
well, what's one of those stories? I want to start crying over here.
Oh man. Marley's was hard. He's the Australian Shepherd. The gentleman in the family had
probably because his name is Marley, like the movie.
Yeah. I had a Marley too, and a different circumstance. But the gentleman in the family had gotten I don't remember the exact what they said, but he had some health concerns come up. And Marley was an Australian Shepherd, and he's wild. And they had treatment to go through and stuff. And so they brought him in, and to see a grown man cry over a dog is just like, I don't know. It's just another level of sad for me. And then there was a woman came in the other day. She wasn't relinquishing a pet, but she'd come in the other day, and her daughter passed away a couple weeks ago, unexpectedly, kind of. She had a brain tumor, and she lives in San Diego, and she was having migraines, and she passed away like really, really quickly. And she had a couple cats, and the mom flew out, and they did their services out there, and then flew the cats back and kept them. And then in her daughter's memory, they donated money to us. Ugh, talking to her mom was so sad. Because she was just genuinely like a really, really nice woman. And then there was one, Lenny's family was another one, and I'll probably cry talking about it. Ashley is Lenny's mom, and Lenny was a 2 or 3 year old. If she hears this, she's going to yell at me that I didn't get the right age. I think she was 2 or 3. She was diagnosed with leukemia at like very shortly after birth, and they're a Hersher family. And, Lenny passed away just before her first birthday, like a couple months before. And ironically, the same week of Lenny's birthday, we got a dog in that was just under a year old named Roscoe. And his birthday was coming up on a Friday or Saturday. So we posted like, oh, it's Roscoe's birthday. He really wants a family for his birthday. We had a staff member make like a doggy birthday cake, and we did like a happy birthday button, and we were going to do this whole picture thing for his birthday in the event that he was with us for his birthday. And Lenny's family, while they were down getting treatment for her, I think it was like Nashville or Memphis or somewhere, their family dog of like several years passed away, and they weren't there. And so they had applied with us several months prior, and they had said, hey, we're interested in Roscoe. It was kind of an out of the blue email, Roscoe and Lenny had the same birthday. Wow. And so they came in and adopted him on his birthday. It was the coolest thing. It really was. And they took a puppy home with them. So it was neat. And they were a great family. And he's a good boy. So
yeah, that's adorable.
Yeah, he had a whole 4-day stay, I think, until they scooped him up. But it was really cool. And then talking to Ashley after the fact, it was neat to see like the whole kind of it was a small world situation thing, because one of their nurses for hospice is one of my wife and I's really good friends, Dana. So we kind of got to talking and connected the dots on it. And so it was just really neat that the timing of it and like the serendipity of it, I guess, of adopting a dog on their daughter's birthday was cool. So, and it was his birthday. So, so he still got his party. It just ended up a little bit better than we expected.
Much better.
Yeah, like, it was cool.
That's awesome. That's such a great story. Very, very heartwarming story. Now this subject probably isn't so heartwarming, but and I know this is something you get asked about a lot, and I know I can't tell you how many times I hear someone complain about the adoption process from, whether it's the Humane Foundation or any other type of shelter. They complain about, I would get a dog from the shelter, but man, like they're so, so tough. So let's go through that. Like, and because I've never adopted an animal from a shelter. So like, sometimes you wonder, like, you hear these. Does
it really need to be that hard?
Is it actually that hard, or are some of these people that are complaining about it just kind of, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but I think you know where I'm getting at.
The theory behind, yes, I do. The theory behind it is you have all these dogs that need homes. Why do you make it so hard for me to get one? Why do you ask so many questions? Why do you need to know this? Why do I have to do this? That kind of thing. And it's because of the dogs that are given away on Facebook, or like, we had a dog brought in the other day that a guy had grabbed by its neck and just drug through the door and kind of just flung in. Like, that's why. The background that most of our pets come from are not loving, like Marley homes or Roscoe homes. They're people that didn't take any care of their pet and didn't treat it appropriately. So we're building trust with that dog. We have a pregnant dog right now that was terrified and growling and wanted nothing to do with anybody. And I got my first mlem, which is like a little lick on the face, the day before yesterday. And she's been with us for a week. And I was like, ugh,
Wow. Big step.
Yeah. So, and she's come a long way, even in a week with most of our staff. But I mean, like now when we go in there, she'll start wagging her tail and we're like, ooh, like we've been accepted kind of. But it's not as hard as people think if you're doing the right things. Most people that have a complaint usually, and I don't want to say always, usually they wouldn't probably be approved by a private rescue because they might not be providing all of the care. Like, we do a vet check, so we make sure vaccines are up to date. Everybody's spay and neutered. The dog sees a vet. The dog gets heartworm prevention. We treat so many cases of heartworm that you can't just skip it because it's so easy to prevent. Like I tell people, if you can afford Netflix, you can afford heartworm every month. It's the same cost.
Yeah.
And so, it's hard because we don't want the dogs to be in the same position. And it's hard for me and some of my staff that help with like applications because we have to discern, like, I don't want to judge anybody. Like, I don't, that's not fun. It sucks. Like, I don't want to assume the worst, but I kind of have to sometimes. And so like one of our questions a lot of people give us a little kickback on is why do we ask for their like annual household income? Like I get yelled at about that a lot. And it's like, well, if you make $10,000 and you never took your previous dog to the vet, there's probably better things that you're spending your money on than the dog.
It makes absolute sense because it costs so much money for a pet.
Well, and like
to take care of one.
Yeah, we got a dog a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks ago now, and he just came in yesterday. Officially, he was hospitalized for almost a week, and the people couldn't afford care, and so they relinquished him to an emergency vet, and they kind of bridged the gap, and we took him in, but we ended up with like a $4,000 hospital bill. And it's just, and some people will come and be like, okay, well, he's better now. Can I have him back? And it's like, well, what if something else happens though? And that's that, and I don't want to be like accusatory ever to anybody, but that is the genuine, that's a very, very serious question is what happens next time? And that's what makes it hard. But there have been some times where people have called and they're like, I have a dog that I can't afford, he has a UTI. I can't afford to run the urinalysis and get the appropriate antibiotics. He's not dog friendly. He's only been with me. He's 9 years old, yada, yada, yada. And when I got that call, this was, I think 3 years ago. And they happened to be actually at the vet when I was there. And I poked in their room and I said, well, just pay for it. Cause like, I don't want to take a dog out of a home. We can't do that all the time, but when it's like a quick, easy, like $60 fix, there's been times where we've done it because it's in the best interest of the pet. And I'm not out, and KCHF in general is not out to take everybody's pet out of their home. Like,
yeah, you're not DCFS for animals necessarily.
We want to provide the best care, but we also want to make sure that, they're living indoors, they're taken care of, they're spay and neutered, they're vaccinated, microchipped, all of the things that they should be, and they're not in, quote unquote, harm's way. And that's what makes it hard is because sometimes like I personally, like, I'm like, I don't want to judge anybody today. Like, I just want to have rainbows and butterflies. And we have those days. But we see so many like neglect cases and abuse and there's been some ugly ones. And there's a lot of cases where we can't do anything. Like, it's just, it's he said, she said, and there's nothing like concrete to be like, here, Jim Rowe, like,
yeah.
Which we have had a couple of those where we've been able to, go further with. But ultimately, we just kind of are one of those, like, you pull your pants up and do what you can for the dog and put it in the best environment you can and hope they forget.
Yeah.
And that's why it can be hard and overwhelming for people that have never adopted. It can be overwhelming because there's a lot of questions and they don't know what to expect. And we try to make it easy as possible. And going through, like, when we walk through the shelter, we always have a staff member that's with the family as they walk through so we can answer any questions. We're very open about full background, if there's a dog that's ever bit anybody or doesn't like men or isn't good with other animals or any type of quirky behavior, if they are growly with toys, if they're just trying to play versus if they're really growly with toys. We always try to be very, very open because we don't want to set the person up to be in a wonky position, but more so we want the dog to be in a safe place. And if the person can't meet that dog's needs, that's okay. There's 20 other dogs, I'm sure, that would fit, but we want to make sure that they're getting, something that matches what they're looking for and what's realistic for the pet too, or cat.
So someone that wants to adopt, what should they be prepared for besides the salary, the monthly or the yearly household income? What is some of the other things people need to have in order or be prepared to answer? Because I know there's, like you said, there are a lot of questions, and that's just because you want to make sure it's a good placement.
Yeah, it seems like a lot. And I guess because I've done it for so long, it doesn't seem like a lot for me. And I've adopted from other places where their applications are actually way longer than ours. Like I adopted from DuPage Animal Control, and their questionnaire was longer than ours. And they're in animal control. So it was actually impressive to see. But the application really isn't that bad. It just seems overwhelming if you don't know what to expect. It's the basics: name, address, phone number, any pets in the home currently, the ages of your children or grandchildren, and then the vet listed. Because when I get an application, we'll look at, if they have a fenced yard. Some of our dogs do need a fence. Some of them it doesn't really matter, or if they're active. Like we adopt a lot to the city of Chicago because they don't, it's apartments and condos and houses and not big yards, but they have to go for walks and they have to be active. And so we put a giant 100-pound Mastiff in this big condo last year, and she's living her best life.
Really?
Yep. Dog beach, dog park, craft brewery, festivals. She's
so you
out
get
and
a lot
about.
of people from Chicago.
We do get a lot, yeah.
Wow.
Which is interesting, but yeah,
I never would have thought that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that because it's harder to adopt in the city, or do you think it's just one of those things?
I just think it's just one of those things, yeah, because there's tons of shelters there, like rescues and animal control.
I would imagine. And it's even closer to the city in the suburbs, because obviously we're not a suburb.
Yeah.
We're pretty far.
Yeah, some of our really good, best dogs that we've had, because they've been through it as far as the dogs. Like Tegan is one of them. And her mom spoils the crap out of her. Oh my God. She was so emaciated. She was eating rocks when she came in because the people weren't feeding her. She was just a mess. They had bred her over and over and over, and she was terrified. She wouldn't wag her tail. She would just look at us like just puppy, sunken. And now I get pictures from her mom, Allie, and she's sprawled on the couch and she's out with her buddies, and they she puts a coat on her and they go for walks in the winter. It's cool to see. That's why it's hard to adopt, because they go from that, to this. But and then so we'll call a vet and we'll ask, with previous or current pets, do they do regular vaccines? Are they spay and neuter? Do they do heartworm? Those are kind of the basics. And then if it's a yes on all of those, we'll say, okay, you can come on in. We'll set up an appointment, and then, they'll kind of answer any questions. We'll meet and greet with other pets in the home, or dogs, not so much cats. And then kind of go from there as far as the dog interaction, or if they, they don't have any pets, just making sure that they can meet the dog's needs and the dog can meet the family's expectations too. Because, if you want a dog to go running, we're not going to give you a pug necessarily, because that doesn't work. Or if they want a couch potato, a 3-month-old cattle dog is not really the greatest idea either. And so we always try to make sure that, we're very open with the dog's needs as far as energy and that kind of thing, because we don't want to set somebody up to have a lunatic dog in their house that's terrorizing them.
Yeah, and they don't.
Which can happen. Yeah. I have one.
Me. I can tell you all about it.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. So with the, I forgot what I was going to say. How do you put a price tag on adoptions? Does it just depend? I know we were talking about the cost of taking on a new pet or a new animal. But yeah, how do you, at the end of the day, how do you decide, okay, well, this dog is up for adoption for $100 or
Sure.
whatever? Is it just how much money you've put into?
No, that has nothing to do with it.
It has nothing to do with it. Okay.
Like Theo, the shepherd that was hospitalized, he had a $4,000 bill. His adoption fee is $300.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a flat. There it is. So it's $300 for adult dogs, which anybody we consider adult is somebody that's spay or neutered already, that either we've done or it's already been done. And anybody that's a puppy would be not spay or neutered, and they're just too young. So it would be under 4 months. That is $325, and then the adopter's required and responsible for getting that spay or neuter done, and then they get $50 of their adoption fee back, almost as like a security deposit, so to speak, just to make sure that gets done. We do a follow-up, and most people are like, here, look at this dog now. So we never really have any issue with chasing people around. to get it done, really. Or, if it's a bigger breed dog and their vet said, oh, we want to wait until they're like a year or two on 2, but like a lot of vets, if it's a large breed dog, they'll want to wait until they're around 1, which that's up to the vet, and that's fine as long as they get it done. And then there are times where we can do, like, I can kind of have some wiggle room. Like we don't have to discount adoption fees. However, we do. Like right now we have a 19-year-old min pin.
What's a min pin?
A miniature pinscher. He's this little feller. He's kind of like a tiny Doberman almost.
Okay. Okay.
And he's 19. So,
oh, wow.
I mean, that's hard to say, hey, this dog's probably going to live at best another year. And so I had talked to our board and I said, can I adjust this? So there are dogs that we adjust the fee for. If we've had a dog for over a year and they have to be an only pet, like we'll cut it to where it's $150. So it's like in half, because finding that perfect home is very, very hard. And people don't adopt because it's expensive or inexpensive. They adopt because they genuinely want to. I mean, there's rescues that will charge $800 for an adoption fee and people won't bat an eye and they'll pay it.
Mm-hmm.
But we just keep the kind of same standard flat. Here it is, with the exception of certain cases, or if they have like a big medical need that, like, say we got a diabetic dog in and the owner did everything and brought in their insulin and their shots or their needles and all of the stuff. I would say, hey, we got this dog, and I would talk to my board and just say, this is the circumstance because of its medical needs and ongoing care. Can we discount it because they are going to be taking on, which I've done, and it helps. I've personally adopted some messy kids, and they're not cheap once you get them home. And so in those circumstances, it really just depends on the pet, but there is kind of a standard, just flat, here it is, no matter what we've done, because it's hard to say, okay, this dog's $5,000.
Right.
That's not realistic.
Well, yeah,
we'd have the dog forever.
I mean, you're talking about the dog that had the $4,000 hospital bill.
We had one Coral that was a little Chihuahua from a very rough house in Iroquois County. We removed 11 dogs from the home, and she broke one of her legs and had to have a surgery. And then like a couple weeks later, had to have a second surgery to correct the bone because it didn't heal the right way. And I mean, she was thousands of dollars, and she had to go through rehab and all of that. Her adoption fee didn't, you can't expect somebody to pay $10,000 for a puppy. It's just not realistic.
No,
that's not why we do it either. Yeah.
Right.
That's one of those, you just we assume the responsibility, and there it is. We're doing the right thing, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Usually.
You just absorb it.
Yeah.
Now I know you have foster homes because, you obviously can't keep all of the pets in your facility.
Yes.
How does that work if someone wanted to become a foster parent for animals, or even just become a volunteer at the shelter?
Mm-hmm. We have a foster application, which is pretty much identical to our adoption application. It's formatted like a little bit different, but it has genuinely the same questions. So we run it the same way. We'll check, previous pets, current pets. If they have, say somebody has like 10 dogs, I don't know that I would put another dog in their home.
Probably not.
Yeah, because that's just a big dynamic. We get a lot of foster. We have one genuinely super insanely consistent foster. It's Angie and Kyle. And they live in Bourbonnais, and they just picked up their 53rd kitten yesterday.
Wow.
In a year and a half.
In a year and a half.
Yes. They started a year and a half ago, and they picked up their 53rd yesterday. We were just talking about it. And so they have one of their spare bedrooms they converted into a kitten nursery, and it's got like a running track along the walls, so the cats can go to different levels and climb around. And they've done nursing moms. They've done pregnant that's given birth there. They've done tiny, they had a spicy group. They named them after peppers, and they were kind of feral when they came in, and they ended up being super loving. And so we called them the Spicies.
That's cool.
They've got some semi-feral kids right now that were from the one-eyed cat. She's actually totally social, but her two siblings have not fully decided that they like people yet. So they are socializing, and they take in kids that aren't ready, any between 3 and 4 weeks up through, a couple months. If they're not old enough to be adopted yet, we kick them over to Angie and Kyle's Learn to Cat house. And
I was going to say, they're all set up there.
And so they're funny. They love a cat. I'm surprised they've not kept one. I keep bugging them, but
they have not kept one.
They've
That's
not.
Surprising.
Kyle is a professional cat dad to the most insane level, and he wants to keep every single one. And Angie's like, nope, they're going back. They almost kept a tripod kitten, Timmy, a couple weeks ago, and then Kyle's cousin, I think, lives in the city, ended up adopting him. So they were robbed of their cat. They only have 2 cats of their own. So, but they keep them long enough to then send them back. But otherwise, the foster application is very much the same. We run it the same. Any other pets in the home, we would do like a meet and greet, make sure they get along, and then kind of just say, here you go. And then one of our staff members, Devin, has Archie with us, and he has been with her for 7, almost 8 months. And I'm still waiting for her to cave and adopt him. But she's done, I mean, he's night and day different from what he was. He was terrified in the shelter. He was skinny. He couldn't gain weight. He was okay and social with us, but he wasn't like comfortable. And Devin took him home, and now he's like 70 pounds and a big mush and lives with a dog and cats. And I mean, he's just a totally different creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds very happy.
Yeah.
That's good.
He's a good boy.
That's good. So if someone wanted to be a volunteer at the Humane Foundation, though, not necessarily a foster home, what do you, I'm sure you always need volunteers.
Yes.
What exactly are you looking for in a volunteer?
Able-bodied people. It's not hard work mentally. It's just sometimes can be very hard work physically, as far as like cleaning kennels and stuff like that. We have a volunteer application, and it's basically just to have on file so we know who people are if there's ever an incident or anything like that. We get a lot of people that come in that need like court, like community service hours for whatever it is, school, court, work. Like I think it's Cigna that does, if you volunteer, like I want to say there's a group of 5 or 6 women that have come out every year, and I think they're from Cigna. And they come out and they do, like, I think they work 3 work days, but at the shelter, and they get paid for it, but we get their help.
Oh, wow.
It's like, I don't know, it's some give back program. A lot of places have it. Yeah,
that's
it's really
a cool
neat.
program. Yeah.
And so what people would do to volunteer is they'll come out and just do whatever we've got going on. We have, like, my sister volunteers over the summer and mows all the yards for us. We have a volunteer that comes in every Monday and Wednesday and does all the dishes and laundry from noon to 2, faithfully, no matter what, every day or every week. She is always in. At one point, it was snowing so bad, so she had her grandson drive her all the way out so she didn't miss. Like, yeah. Leanne is one of the best.
That's adorable.
We have kids that come in. BBCHS, their civics class used to, I don't know if they still do it with COVID. It's probably a little different, but they had 4 hours that they'd have to do. So we'd get a ton of BBCHS students out. Olivet kids. I mean, anything that we've got going on at the shelter as far as cleaning kennels, setting cats up, adoption events. We do volunteers for those.
Okay.
If and when we go back to doing them.
So you haven't been doing them because of COVID?
We haven't, no. We did an open house, which we used to be open pre-COVID. We were open Tuesday through Saturday, 12 to 4. Door was unlocked. Anybody could walk in at any time. You could walk through. Didn't have to have an application. However, that changed initially, and we went appointment only. And we've stayed that way, and I think we're going to stay that way for the probably further than immediate future, because it helps our staff kind of keep up with everything. And with being appointment only, people have the application in. It's already gone through. I've looked at it. So when they're coming in to adopt, not just to look.
Yeah. That kind of, I would think that would make it a little easier.
It is. And we know
less work.
Yeah. We can expect, like, we know what to expect, so we can prepare. Okay, this person has 2 dogs, so we need to show them, we walk anybody through the whole shelter, but we know, okay, you need somebody that's dog friendly, good with kids, or, like if somebody could come in and be like, I've had dogs before. I don't have any now. I don't have any children. I don't care if they're dog friendly. And that changes kind of, who we would push, because we have longer term residents that can't live with other dogs.
Right.
And so that makes getting them adopted a lot more difficult. But being a little bit more organized for an appointment to come in has helped our staff. Also, we can keep up on things better, because if we have, 30 people in on a Saturday and there's 3 of us there, it's hard to help. It's hard to have that one-on-one attention with the family to answer all their questions and bounce around. So it's helped us stay organized, keep the shelter a lot more clean and running a little bit more smoothly, and give families, when they come in, that individual attention to answer any and every question that we could
there's
possibly,
always a lot. There's always a lot of questions.
And there's questions that we don't think about, like, there's some dogs that we have that can't go to a home. They can go to a home that has a fenced yard. However, we've had a couple dogs that climb fences or jump fences. So there'll be people that come in and like, well, we don't have a fence, but we're active. Like those situations. And they have people come up with interesting questions that we wouldn't think of. Like, will they chew up my baby's stuff? Well,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like, do they eat toys, or, can they have like a special diet? Like those are things that, we know, but we don't always think about right away. That when people are adopting, they ask, and giving that one-on-one attention gives them the full picture, almost full picture. Everybody usually ends up with another question, and that's okay.
There's always questions.
Yeah. And that's all right, because I rather them ask, but not having that attention, kind of, it makes it hard for you to, to know everything or to feel comfortable all the time. If I have a staff member, or I even am walking and overseeing 4 families that are going through, because I don't know who's looking at who. And if 10 people want to take dogs out all at once, it's really hard, because you have to know who's in what yard. And so that can be difficult.
Yeah, that would get messy. So
so the being appointment only, it has been hard, because the community is not super thrilled about it, because that's not how we've always been. However, for us, it's working really, really well. And I've kind of found that, if people genuinely want to adopt, they'll go through the process. They will.
And I mean, it's not like you've got, 20 people working there all at once.
It's 3 of us. Yeah.
So it would be different if you had a bigger staff to accommodate that kind of open style, but you don't.
Yeah.
So.
We did do an open house a couple weeks ago, where it was just kind of a random. I said, hey, let's just do this. So I planned staffing accordingly. We did an event, and we did have a lot of people come out to walk through and stuff. And it felt good to have some old normal back, because it used to be a really fun kind of chaos, but not every day. Because like you could have a random Tuesday where it's just nonstop, and then I can't run any applications, the phones don't get answered, that kind of stuff, because we're kind of all over and dogs don't get out, we're behind, and then we stay late to get everybody out in a timely manner, and so it was fun to have that chaos back, but not consistently. So we talked about it I talked about it with our staff, and I think we're going to do it periodically, but not like every other Saturday or anything like that. It's just going to be like, hey, we're having an open house, and we had some Olivet students come out and kind of hang out. So they're always fun to have out. So.
Yeah. Maybe it'd be like a quarterly thing.
Yeah. I think we're going to try to do it like once a month, just for the sake of doing it. Because as it gets colder, people don't have sports and stuff to do.
Yeah.
And so walking through the shelter is something different. We do have a date with a dog program. So basically you can come in and borrow a dog for the day.
That's cool.
So you fill out, we have a date with a dog application, which basically, again, just gets all of the person's information. They come out, we'll walk them through, which dog do you want to take out? We'll give them a rundown of their behavior just to make sure they're comfortable handling them. And then the person would go out, spend the day, and then bring the dog back the same day.
That's cool.
We have a sleepover program too. Yes.
Sleepover.
Yep.
I love
the first sleepover we ever did was a younger couple. They did not have a dog before, and they brought the dog home and never returned him. They adopted him.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Well, that worked out well for both parties.
It was like, then. I think the same week we launched it, and they're like, can we just keep him overnight? They started as a date, and then they kept him overnight for a sleepover, and he literally never returned, which was cool. It was good for him.
That is cute. That's very cute.
Yeah.
Jordan Chapman, director of the Kankakee County Humane Foundation. Thank you so much for being on. Anything else before we wrap up? I mean, it's still K3humanefoundation.com.
.org. Yep.
.org.
Yep.
And so people can obviously start they can start by going there and getting information.
Yeah. Our website, our Facebook, we have an Instagram. We have a Tinder account for our dogs. Our dogs are on Tinder. We have a TikTok,
awesome.
All of the social media. We can be reached at any of those. We have a lot of dogs and cats right now. So if anybody's considering, just do it.
All right. Yeah. Fill out that application, make an appointment. Awesome. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on, and
thank you.
Yeah. Good luck getting the dogs and cats to a good home.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Of course. That concludes this episode of Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake LaMore, and I just want to say I'm so grateful and thankful for all of your support. This is episode 20, and the fact that we've made it to 20 episodes so far is pretty incredible in my opinion. So thank you for that. Please make sure you go a step further. Give us a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you do listen to our podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us on whatever your favorite app is. You can also listen to episodes at KankakeePodcast.com. You can sign up for our mailing list there. Also contact me if you're interested in getting involved with the podcast and being on an episode. Also follow us on social media. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Kankakee Podcast. And our theme song is by Lupe Carroll.
People tend to stick to you.